Last Guy Talk, we are live for episode 60 of the Pavis Perspective podcast. It's a Sunday, but we had to get one in. We predicted we'll get the win over Torquay. We'll be talking about a victory, and we did very comfortably. George, still buzzing from yesterday?
Yeah, massive result, huge result. It was a bit patchy, wasn't it? I mean, I said it was routine after the game, but on the grand scheme of the game, I thought there were moments where we couldn't really break Torquay down, but like I said as well, we were patient. And putting 4 goals past any opponent is a good scoreline, isn't it? And we keep the clean sheet, so it's all positive from my perspective.
It is. Evening to Ian that's joining us, Chris, Ellie, Shane, and Derek. Good to have you with us on a Sunday evening, and anyone that's just joining us or that are listening back on Spotify. Appreciate that as well. Drop us a review. I thought from their perspective, we'll talk about them first. I thought they tried to frustrate us. I thought for 15 minutes it did work. I thought their fans were good. That could have always got behind the players. But ultimately, and I said this to Colin, I don't know what the best way to set up and stop us is. Is it that you set up to frustrate us and keep it going as long as possible? Is it that you just players attacking, try and matches? Because I feel like if you do that, we're going to pick you apart very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Torquay even sat back and Chips and missed a sitter within 5-10 minutes. So even though they sat back, they could have been behind within 10 minutes. I don't know how would you? I know we're not qualified, but we've sort of joint run a 5-a-side team, so we've sort of got tactical nous between us, haven't we?
Before we go on, Tom, what was that team called?
We had a 5-a-side team, and we weren't very good when we started off. We were literally called Good Team.
Yeah. What a team name that is.
Yeah, but we were about 16 or 17 in a men's league.
Yeah, we got bullied. But back to the point.
To be fair, we masterminded a win in like week 18. So we can kind of talk about this. So if anyone's watching that was in that against us, losing to a bunch of 17-year-olds on a 17-game losing streak, embarrass yourself. But how would you set up? If you're an opposition manager, how are we going to set up? I don't know.
Yeah. I try to hit nuts on the counter.
But teams have done that and it's not worked.
Yeah, but that's all you can do because we play such a high line. We have so many ways of playing that if you try and come out the traps flying, that I think that suits Notts a lot more than it would, sort of sitting in a lot deeper. So I think the only thing you really can do is hedge your bets. You can't say one way is going to work, one way is not going to work. I think if you've got the likes of Solihull, where they've got quite a good defence, if they sit off and I'm not giving them any tactics here because I've already said 5-a-side manager and stuff like that, but they've got that fast striker as well. I can't remember his name now. It's slipped from my mind.
Who have?
Dallas, Solihull.
Yeah.
Like that sort of team where they've got a good defence, decent midfield, and then they've got a fast striker that they can ping it over to. That's the style that I'd go for.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's
against Notts.
Is it Altrincham that hit the bar against us on the counter? And that could have been a different game. But at the minute, we're just so clinical. We'll go on to the game again in a second. But our question tonight, it's already got a lot of votes, is who's the best signing of the Reach Brothers era? So the time they've been in charge of us, Ruben Rodriguez, Macaulay Langstaff, Matty Palmer, or Carl Roberts. Have you got your vote in?
Yeah, I have. And there's so many to pick from. And I think at the end of this season, I think we could definitely see 2 or 3 more names put in that mix. I think it's obviously early days because he's only played, a handful of really good games for us. But I think Bajrami could be the best signing.
Yeah, someone said best signing Luke Williams. Yeah, he could easily be in there. I mean, Slocum could have been in there for me. Carl Cameron could easily have slipped into there. Adam Chickson could have slipped in there. There's a lot of people we could have added to that list, but it only allows us to have 4. So get your votes in. 41 votes already. And if you're listening back, just have a think who you would choose as the best sign of the Reach Brothers era. They're in there for different reasons. We'll go on to that in a little bit. And Robert says, honourable mention for Chickson as best signing. He was so good yesterday. But going back to talking about how you'd set up against us, you've got to hope we miss chances, haven't you? Someone's put it up here. 13 goals in 8 days. I mean, we're averaging...
That's more than our five-a-side team.
It is more than 2 seasons of our five-a-side
in history,
team.
yeah.
But how many games have we played now? Is that game 16? Right, we've got 44 goals. We're not far off averaging 3 a game. So you've got to hope we don't take our chances. Like we said, Chickson missed that one that was a bit of a setter. It's becoming a bit crazy when Rawlinson's pinging them in from outside the box, isn't it? Because you were sat in the family stand, weren't you? Yesterday. What was that like from there, seeing that one go in? Was it always
beautifully taken? Beautifully taken. Do you know, I looked up, I had to double take because I thought, no disrespect, I thought that can't have been Rawlinson.
Yeah.
But it was. What a finish. Absolutely brilliant finish. It looked really good from... I was literally sat right at the top of the family stand, bang in the middle of the goal as well, so I had a really good view of it. Great finish. You wouldn't have said that was a centre-half finishing that off. It was a great goal, and fair play to him.
Yeah, confidence is high, isn't it?
Highest we've ever seen it.
It is. I just watched, before we came on live, I watched Badrami's post-match, and he said something like, we're just in the groove now. We're just settled into it.
Yeah, and he talks a lot about having a lot of confidence in his own ability, doesn't he? Like, he sort of talks about backing himself at the highest level, and that's the sort of players you want in your team, because, there's going to be times this season where we are going to be tested, and, we're top of the league. Have we got the bottle to stay there? That essentially is the big test now, isn't it? And I know it's November, isn't it? In 2 days. I know it's early stages of the season, but we're in a good position. We just need to keep the mentality exactly the same of what Bajrami's is, and from performances that we've seen recently, I know it's easy to get carried away, but you do start believing, don't you?
Yeah, I'll go back to this comment I've just seen Ian put in.
Yeah.
He said, are you worried that we're all getting used to winning and expect it every game? We won't win every game, so as fans, we can't expect it. It's a good point. There will be a loss. There'll be more than one loss, I think, for the rest of the season. Practically impossible for us not to lose at least 2 more games, if not more. And one of them will be a poor loss that we won't expect. Probably, knowing not, so it'll be Eastleigh at their place. But I'm going into games now, and like Torquay, I was a bit nervous, but I just expected the win. I expected it. I went to Wealdstone and I was nervous, but then we've kicked off and within a minute I've had a shot and I expected the win. I think it's how we react to him, to be honest. I think it's how the squad react to losing that game when we eventually lose it, and whoever it's to. Because no loss is good. We either lose to one of the teams chasing us, which is poor. We either lose to a team near the bottom, which is poor. So it's how we react. What do you think, George?
Yeah, I think it's very reactionary, isn't it? Like, it really depends where we are, what's going on around us and things like that, because I think sometimes, when we're on the runs that we are on, we're top. Let's say we're 4 points clear at the top and then we end up losing a game. We still have that cushion, don't we, where Wrexham or whoever's below us can still win and we can still be top. I think sometimes you do need a bit of a result like that to not need, but they do happen and they bring you back down to earth and it kind of bursts the bubble a little bit. I think sometimes you need that to sort of be like, right, we're not on it every single week. I know that might sound like a stupid thing to say, but I think it's easy to get carried away. Like I've just said, it's the end of October, we're top of the league. We're starting to dream a little bit now, aren't we? Really, realistically, I think for the first time we've been down here, we're starting to dream properly. So I do worry we're getting used to winning, but the performances have been that convincingly good,
and they haven't dropped. I
can't see where a loss comes from. And don't get me wrong, I do think we probably will lose 1 or 2, like you said. But I honestly don't see where. Maybe it's like even Wrexham away. I'd back us to get a point in a game like that, minimum.
I genuinely could see a loss coming.
Where?
Southend away.
Well, yeah, somewhere like even like Oldham away, somewhere like that. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
a big, a well-known club in the league, we'll say, somewhere like that. But I think we've undone a lot of things that were sort of worrying us. And I know Torquay are bottom of the league, but they were still a bogey team for us. You know, Gary Johnson would really rise to the occasion of playing Notts. And he got it. I mean, you could say he got it right, but they frustrated us for a short time in the game yesterday. But that was about it, really. They didn't really offer too much. And it's like, it's all of that stuff at this moment in time feels like it's in the past now. So to answer the question, I'm not too concerned about getting carried away. That's what football's about, isn't it? When you see performances, results, and goals like we have done in even the last 2 weeks, take the Colville result out of there, obviously. You can't help but start to get carried away. I think.
Yeah,
you've got to enjoy it. You've got to enjoy it.
Paul says after Christmas, if we're still top, then dare to dream. I think there's a little run after Christmas where it's like Bournemouth, Solihull, Chesterfield. That's where I'll start to really think if we're still top at that point, I think we're doing very, very well. But someone has already said here that no way will Luke Williams let him get carried away. No way. He said
and this is the thing. Like another thing that we're obviously going to talk about in this video. If you watch the videos from after the games where you've done really well, there's obviously a little bit of, pride in the result and things like that. But even when we won 6-1, he wasn't happy about the goal, and some of the focus was on not letting that goal happen. Yesterday, he was talking about he wasn't overly happy with the performance, and they made it difficult for us and things like that. It's not like he's coming off and not being arrogant, but he's giving too many plaudits to let the players sort of run away with it a little bit at this moment in time. Do you know what I mean?
There's also a quote from him that very recently, in like the last week or so, that said, "If you're not willing to run or you don't want to run, you're not playing in the team." Like, players are not going to get comfortable. Badrami, Chickson were insane, but if they drop their levels and for one game don't run or don't do what he's asked them to do, I wouldn't think he'd hesitate to mix it up. Like, I think he has the highest standards I've seen of a Notts manager. Yeah. But I thought Birchnell was good. I thought he was good. So we had a soft underbelly with Birchnell. This side definitely don't. No way.
It just goes to show you. We used to say this after some games that we feel like we're one-dimensional when we had Birchnell. Fast forward a season, we've got so many dimensions. We're getting lost in the dimensions.
We have a lot, don't we? We have a lot.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's like yesterday, and William sort of said this. We sort of see the slow, patient build-up play most of the time, but from goal kicks and free kicks in our half, you'd see us going long a lot, and we were trying to get on the second ball. So it just shows you that we're not there to just sort of pass it around and make it work that way. If we can't make it work that way, we'll go long.
Do you know what I
don't have a problem with that.
At half time, we had 80% possession. You've got to be a pretty good counter-attacking team to score past Notts with 20% possession. You have to be. So if we're keeping the ball, they were pressing. They were doing pretty well. They'll be shattered. And you saw, when it got to 2 and they realised there was no hope. Those last 5 minutes where we scored 2 goals, they were dead. They were flat out on their feet, absolutely shattered. Like, if you're gonna have to be clinical if you're getting 20% of that possession in the game. Let's say on average you're getting about 30, maybe 35% possession against Notts. So I think that's something massively in our favour. I don't mind the slow build-up, personally. Last year we did, because it would be slow for the whole game, and there'll be no invention in what we were doing. But this time, it's really good, and we just seem in control. Do you know, if we got pressed last season, my heart was in my mouth. Every time we got pressed, it was like a mistake, forced. Did we make an error yesterday? I know there's the error from Slocum in the Woking game, but since then, I don't think there's much. And before that, maybe one.
There's a couple of errors in there. I think misplaced passes and things like that. But there's people like Bajrami in the middle that are just there to sort of break things like that up, and he does it so well. So even when things do go slightly wrong, there's the players there and the sort of belief there that they can break that attack down or break that sort of possession down for the opponents and regain it and do something about it, instead of, I don't know, like you said, it was a bit of a soft underbelly. We seemed fairly easy, I think, to sort of get at. Whereas now it's completely different story, isn't it?
And you might not have seen it because you were in the family stand yesterday, but from where I was sat, there was 1 point 80 odd minutes into the game, and I think it was Adebayo Rawlin was on at that point, and he could possibly have played the ball down the line. He chose to go back to Slocum, and Williams went mad, absolutely crazy. Yeah, going crazy, pointing up the pitch. He seems to do this a lot. Like I don't know what that symbol means, whether it means to split the defense or get it out wide. I don't know, but he was doing that a lot. He went crazy when they passed that ball out. So
I think it references what he does to a 2-finger kick out.
Do you reckon? I've heard you just literally bite into a Kit Kat.
That's craziness.
That's poor. That is poor from you. Someone else is going to talk about was Slocum's distribution. I said yesterday, incredible. You laughed at me. I think you thought I was taking the mick. But honestly,
no, it was good. It's just the way I've said. Like when you look at a keeper, 9 times out of 10, you're thinking, is he had many saves to make? He didn't have to make one save, but he claimed the ball well, didn't he?
Yeah,
like on like 3 occasions. And he just seemed more up for making himself available from a goal kick. Like he'd pass it out and then run forward.
How old is he?
33, I think. 32, 33, 34.
34. Now, as you get older, it's hard to implement new things in your game. He's become like almost an additional outfield player when we've got the ball. So I think he's done really well. And there were points this season where people were calling for Brad Young to come in after 3 or 4 games, and Slocum's, still in goal. McCoy Langstaff, 1 out of the last 10 goals. Terrible player, isn't he? Terrible.
Yeah, I wouldn't be watching him.
No. So if there's definitely a few scouts watching this now. 100%. He's not worth it. Not worth it.
Definitely not.
But goals from all over the pitch. What is there a position? Who's not scored that started yesterday?
Slocum.
Obviously Slocum.
It's coming now.
Has Baldwin scored this season? I don't think so. He's been out for most of it.
I don't know,
I don't think Kyle Cameron scored. But Aaron Neman scored, Chickson scored, Palmer scored, Badrami scored, Scott, Ruben, Langstaff. I don't think he scored. Aidan Baldwin. We'll have a quick look. I don't think he has. No. But if you look at the bench yesterday, there's even options on that bench that were just. The bench is so much stronger than it was in recent years. If we look at it yesterday, Adebayo Rawlin. I said this the other day. If you're a fullback and you've had Aaron Neman run at you all game, and you think, he's going off the pitch, and on sets Adebayo Rawlin.
Yeah.
Nightmare. Yeah, it's time to go home. We've got Sam Austin on the bench. He scored this season. Castro scored. And then you've got Kyra Mitchell who scored. And Ed Francis, who I don't think Ed Francis has got a goal either. That's almost the whole of the squad that's got goals. So, William says Connor was our first centre-back to score this season. And it wasn't a header. So, interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Let's remind you of the poll then. Who is the best signing of the Reach Brothers era? Is it Ruben, Maka, Cal Roberts, or Matty Palmer? Get your votes in. Who would you say has been that best signing? Might not just be for playing either, might be from the money we've recouped from them. It's an interesting one. There are 58 votes so far, and it's one person's doing quite well. He's quite far ahead. So, George, Bromley. The fixture was postponed earlier in the season. Am I right?
Yes.
For what reason? Okay. So it's postponed for that reason. I think we're now playing them at a really good time. A very good time.
Definitely, yeah.
Have you seen their recent results?
I haven't, no.
Do you want me to read them out for you?
Read them out for me, Tom.
Go on. Do you want me to do it?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So I'll do their last 5 in all competitions. You ready?
Ready.
Drew 1-1 with Gateshead at home.
Can't say too much on that.
Lost 2-1 in the FA Cup to Hereford.
Can't say too much on that one either.
Lost 3-2 to Chesterfield.
That's not that bad.
Lost 3-1 at home to Barnet.
It's pretty bad.
Lost 1-0 at Maidenhead. It's pretty bad.
It's not awful, though.
I'd say it is. Lost 1-0 to Maidenhead. That's not a great result. 3-1 at home to Barnet, losing to Hereford in the FA Cup. These are poor results, George.
Colville.
It's a matter about Colville. I've forgotten about Colville until you said that.
There you go.
But come on. We've got to be beating them.
Oh, 100%. They're for taking. But
there was that little scrap at the end of the Chesterfield game. And that Omar Sawumni got red carded, this centre-back, I think it is. And he's like one of their best players. He's still suspended for Tuesday. So that's massive for us. Would you be disappointed with a draw? Then this could going back to what Ian said about expectations. If I'd have said at the start of the season, Bromley at home, disappointed with a draw, what would you say? I'd say yes.
Yeah, I'd say you would be, but you know, you got to look at things in the now. It's all right, sort of going back and thinking, oh, you got to take it back and think at the start of the season. I think we've seen what this team are capable of now, and we've seen what they can do. So you have to hold them to that standard then every game. You can't let that standard drop. So for me, there's not many. I don't think there's another game this season where you can't be looking at we should be getting 3 points from it. And I know that's a massive statement, because we're not. It's not going to happen.
Maidstone away.
Well,
take the draw.
Yeah, Regan Booty. But yeah, I think for me personally, now we've seen what this team are about. We've seen what they can do. We score goals. We defend well. Why shouldn't we beat any team in this league?
Do you know what I think?
We've beat the best. We've beat the so-called second best team in the league.
Yeah,
quite routine as well. To be fair, could have been more.
We've had harder games. Woking was harder.
Yeah.
You know, what kind of victory I think we need to be looking for on Tuesday? I think it's going to be. Do you remember Boreham Wood at home towards the end of the season? Won 1-0 last year. Kept the ball for about the last 5-10 minutes. Wouldn't let them get it. I think that's what we're going to need. We spoke about this. You remember the home fixture last season against Bromley, don't you? Should have won comfortably. Goes in off the shin of cheek.
Yeah.
We can't be having that again. The difference this season, we could be 2 or 3 ahead by that point.
Yeah.
We could be. I watched Andy Woodman, their manager's press conference this afternoon. And he's pretty downbeat. He said they should have beaten Maidenhead. They just couldn't take their chances. The interviewer was sort of probing him, saying there's a problem, isn't there, with how many you're conceding late on. They're conceding a lot late on. Maidenhead, they lost in the 85th minute. Barnet, the game they lost at home, they were 1-0 up with 5 minutes to go and they lost 3-1. They conceded 85, 90, 91. Chesterfield, 74th minute, still fairly late, which isn't great. Hereford, they lost 92nd minute. And Gateshead, they conceded 80th minute to draw. So
if
we're a side
leaving the 80th minute and you're a happy man.
Happy.
Or woman. Yeah.
But we're a side that keeps going to the end. We scored 2 in added time pretty much yesterday. That's something that I massively think. Well, you get to a point where it plays on your mind as a player. They'll start to drop. They'll start to sit deep. Even if they're drawn, they'll start to sit deep. And Andy Woodman sort of said, no, there's no problem with that. There clearly is. Notts went through a period of that. And you just, as a fan, you just sit there even when you're winning, thinking, you know what's going to happen in a minute. So for me, and the point I was trying to get at was, at the start of the season, because Ian said about raised expectations, at the start of the season, I'd have said we have to beat Bromley at home, and I'm still saying it now. So this is one that I've always marked as one we've got to win. I don't know how they're going to react, but losing 3 on the bounce, then coming here, Medellin is not that easy. They've almost scored half the goals we scored. So they're not free scoring. I don't know how many Michael Cheek's got this season, but their leading scorer is Marriott with 8. Sawumni's got 4. Michael Cheek's got 2. I'd expect way more from Michael Cheek, who got 17 last season, 23 this season before. So it's going to be a tough one. Do you bring Brindley back in?
I probably would, because I would suggest that Baldwin might need resting.
Yeah, 90 minutes.
Yeah.
We obviously don't have a game Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a game Saturday,
yeah,
we're going to go on to this shortly, but would that have affected the team you're going to say later? Or do you think they can just keep playing?
Yeah.
Someone came off, didn't they? Ruben came off. And he asked to come off. Bit of a concern. I hope there's nothing in that. Do you think he'll be playing on Tuesday? I haven't heard anything from the club, and they would have found out today.
Yeah, so William sort of said he wasn't concerned. He said he thinks it's probably just a bit of an ache that he didn't want to play through or something like that. I think it was 2-0 when he came off, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
I think the game was pretty much won by then. You know, they looked dead on their feet. I think Torquay did. They didn't really look like they were going to offer too much more in the remainder of that game. So maybe it was just more precautionary than normal. But I suppose time will tell, won't it? I'm sure we'll know on maybe even tomorrow if the presser comes out. But I won't be concerned.
No. For me, the harder of the next two games, because the next two are tricky. They're a lot harder than Torquay and Wealdstone and Maidstone. The next two are tricky. For me, the hardest one is Southend. Do you know Southend have conceded 11 goals all season? The fewest in the division. That's really impressive. We've conceded 14. Wrexham have conceded 17. Chesterfield 21. That's going to be the harder one. But we've got a week. I think Southend are out the cup though as well, aren't they? Southend are out the FA Cup. They lost to Woking, so they've got that break as well, which is a bit disappointing. We're on BT Sport for that game. Would anyone fancy a watch along for the Southend game? Let us know. Watch along, where we'll be watching the game along with. That's sort of the gist of watch along. Watch along with you, sort of giving our thoughts. If you would like that and you'd be interested in watching, let us know. Let us know. Should we go to our team then?
Go on then.
Or should we go for the poll first? What do you think?
Team poll.
Okay, well then. Let's go team first.
I'll go first.
Go on.
Unchanged, Brindley for Baldwin.
That's it.
Yeah.
Done. And what if Ruben is injured?
Well,
I think I know what you're going to say.
Yeah. Austin.
Okay, I'm going to go unchanged apart from Brindley for Baldwin. And if Ruben is injured, I'm going to put Austin in.
Like a parrot.
Easy, isn't it? Easy as that.
Yeah.
And you've got players that have come off the bench like Castro and scored. So those players have got to be on it when they're playing. Tony says he thinks we'll be unchanged, which is, I think most people would say that. If anyone is different or anyone is thinking we'll be unchanged, put it in the chat. I think at this point now, we've finally played, the players have played themselves in to starting, bar them putting in a terrible performance. And I don't think anyone could play themselves into the side if everyone continues to do what they're doing. Even if they come off the bench and scored 2. I don't think so. Because Scott, for me, if Cairo came on and got 2, you still wouldn't drop Scott. Because did you describe him as like the workhorse, didn't you, in the side?
Yeah, he was yesterday, yeah.
What did we rate him? I think I gave him a 7.5.
I think I gave him an 8.
I love that. You gave him that 8 willy-nilly yesterday.
That's what I do.
Yeah, well, Derek says unchanged for me.
But isn't it good that we're all on that same page? Do you know what I mean? Everyone sees the quality. We're getting results. And I feel, as far as I can remember, this is the first time for a long time, and I'm talking pre sort of relegation. It's like everyone agrees on the squad, and there's no people saying, well, this guy should be playing or that guy should be playing. Everyone's agreed. We've got an 11 that everyone knows plays well together. And playing some really nice football as well. Like yesterday, we actually played some really nice football, and the set piece routine as well. Didn't pull off first time, but second, like on the second phase, it does. So
you must be mentally exhausted to play knots. Like you now can't. In the past, like last year, we were shocking from set pieces, weren't we?
Yeah.
So you can't switch off for a second because those routines have always resulted in a shot or a goal.
Yeah.
Every single one. I'd love Naman to have scored past Torquay. I'd have absolutely loved it. And I love that the ref made him go off, but it happened to be in front of the Torquay fans from the opposite side of the pitch, which was great. A lot of people here, George, are saying that absolutely no changes. They'll keep Jack says he'd bring Bromley in, but a lot of people are saying they wouldn't bring Bromley in because he hadn't been playing that well. He didn't play very well against Colville, and he got sent off against Wealdstone. That's a hard one. I think that's one of the toughest decisions that Williams has had for a while.
Yeah, I think a lot of that's coming down to Baldwin. You know, he's not played for a while. You know, quite a while. So I can't see how. I mean, I might be wrong, but I can't see a player that's been out that long with an injury to come back in, play 90 minutes, and then play again on Tuesday.
Could you imagine if they did do that just because they didn't want to change a winning team, and then Baldwin picked an injury up, and then
exactly, another injury, yeah.
I'm with you for that, but I also if Baldwin hadn't have been injured for so long, possibly would have kept him in. Possibly. Michael says he'd like to see more of Castro. I see Castro as a really good impact sub at the minute. They really went against York, but then when he played after that, it wasn't fantastic. But I think he's a really good option to have off the bench, and especially if you want to take some pop shots, because he's got a wicked right foot, hasn't he?
Yeah,
really good. Let's go to the poll then, George. We've got 65 votes. As always, it's your job.
My job. Love that. Right then, on to the poll. Who's been the best signing of the Reitz Brothers era? I'll go from the bottom to the top this time. 2% say Kyle Roberts, which is quite surprising, I think.
Yeah.
I really do. I think he gave us some really good moments, really good player, scored loads of goals, has got plenty of assists. And we got a good fee for him. Good fee.
Mm.
Matty Palmer, 29% of the vote. Again, probably most consistent player we've had in a decade, maybe.
Never puts a foot wrong.
Macaulay Langstaff wins 29% of the vote.
Okay.
I think it's easy to get, sort of carried away in Macaulay Langstaff at the moment because, he scored plenty of goals. Ruben Rodriguez wins with 40%.
Fair enough.
Thomas,
who did you vote for?
Who did you vote for?
I voted Ruben.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. Tell me why.
Because I'll go through it. Macaulay Langstaff too early. Too early for me to give him the vote. We wouldn't be in this position in the league without him. No way. So Macaulay, no, I don't think we would. We wouldn't. Look at Chesterfield. Both goals came from him. Yeah, I don't think we'll be in this position. Cal Roberts, I didn't vote for him because purely too injury prone. If we'd have had a season with him, full season without him being injury prone, we possibly could have gone up. I do believe that.
I think he's the most talented player that we've had in the Reitz era.
I'll possibly agree. Yeah, I think so. I mean, for the whole season last year, we'd heard he'd been having injections just to play pretty much every game. And he scored quite a few goals for us. That's why I couldn't vote for him. Then that left me with Ruben Rodriguez and Matty Palmer. For me, we've had Ruben. Have we had Ruben a bit longer? We had Ruben 2 years now, haven't we? And this is the third. And Matty Palmer, this is his second season. Some of the things Ruben's done and produced, like the Grimsby winner away, and the work rate he does for a player that's very skillful, I couldn't not pick Ruben. I had to. Who did you pick?
I picked Ruben as well. But I'll tell you, it was difficult. It was really difficult because I really love Matty Palmer. I think he's phenomenal. And the partnership that he has with Bajrami is just amazing. I'm sure Stow said it's probably better than any partnership in League Two as well, which is a big statement, but it's probably true. But yeah, for me, Ruben, they talk about not just looking at the skill set of a player, the sort of mindset of a player as well, and their personality traits. Ruben is literally, for me, the perfect footballer in terms of personality. He gets involved in the game. He puts a challenge in when he has to. There was a couple of games last season where he was getting drawn in, I think, a little bit. I think he picked up suspension, didn't he, for yellow cards? Could be wrong. Nearly got a red card a few times. But I think when players like Ruben that can score goals, do 15, 20 megs every few minutes, when they can sort of put them challenges in and put it on another team, it's amazing. And he's passionate about knots. you sort of talking about at the end of the transfer window, he knew he wasn't leaving Notts because he likes being one of the number one people at the club. So I think that is sort of a testament to him, and it's testament to the recruitment of him as well, because he's bought in from overseas, wasn't he? And I just think he's been amazing. And I think the fans have a real affinity with Ruben as well.
Yeah, I think if we were to do this exact same poll in 3 or 4 months' time, maybe let's say 5 months' time, I think Cal Roberts would no longer be on that list. And I think there'll be someone else in there, possibly Bajrami, possibly Adam Chickson. Never know.
There's some faultless players in there, though. Like,
I wish I could have had
like
8
the top five. That'd be nice. Top 5, because you've even got to look at players like Rawlinson.
Player of the season first year.
How many times he put a foot wrong, really?
Not too many. This season's been faultless.
Cameron, been amazing.
Yeah.
So there's loads. There is loads. And the thing is now, it's like, when we were in League Two for all those years, we never really signed many players that were promising. It was always, you get a player in on loan that was a bit promising, and it was exciting, but they were a loan player.
Yours,
yeah. And then we'd get in like some striker or midfielder that had Prem experience, like, or Championship experience. You're excited for them to come in, but it's the last few years of their career.
Exactly.
Now it's the complete opposite. We're getting players in that are so exciting that we're getting scouts coming to every game. Starting 11, they're all our players. The main players in the squad, they're all our players, and they're all our assets. So that in itself is a huge, huge credit to the Reeds brothers, I think.
Yeah. I've also never felt such affinity with players. Like, I absolutely love Adam Chickson. I love Ruben. I love Kyle Cameron. I love Aaron Aman. Austin, Maka. Like, they're all, I could keep going through. Bajrami, they're so good. Like, Scott as well. The work rate. There's not one player I could say anything about. Like, in previous years, you'd have had players you think they just don't put the effort in. They just don't care. So, yeah, I think this squad's perfect for this. I do think we probably should add 1 or 2 very good squad players in January, because we know Wrexham will do that. But we've also got, like, Jim O'Brien's come back from injury. Aidan Baldwin is getting back to full fitness now, which is good. So let's go for our prediction for Bromley at home Tuesday night. Be a tough one.
Yeah.
What do you think?
2-0 Notts. Langstaff brace.
I'm going to go 1-0 Notts. I think Langstaff gets back on the score sheet. He could have had a hatful yesterday. Just that first touch. So I think it's going to be close. If we can get another clean sheet, that'll be 3 clean sheets in 4.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be good. Get your predictions in for what you think the score will be on Tuesday night. We'll obviously be back on Thursday to preview. Oh, we haven't got a game now, have we, George? We'll have to decide between us. Is it going to be Thursday or is it going to be a Sunday show? We'll have to see.
Yeah,
right, let's see.
Nice.
Let's see what you're saying. So Tony says 2-1 Langstaff with 2. Robert says 3-0 Notts, Ruben times 2 and Cameron. Chris says 2-0 Maka and Bajrami. Nathan 2-0 Maka and Scott. Ian says 2-1 Maka and Scott. I'd like to see Scott get back on the score sheet 100%. I'd like to see him on there. I'm also aware that Callum said he might struggle to watch it, so we're not going to have a Chickson hat trick live, I don't think. Neil says 3-1 Maka, Scott and Ruben. Ellie's also gone for 3-1 Langstaff, Ruben and Scott, so the same as Neil. Very positive. I'd love to keep the clean sheet. I really, really would. That's all of them I'm going to put up now. As always, thank you for joining us. I know it's a Sunday evening. Really appreciate that. Almost 90 of you again. If you haven't subscribed, please do, because we are getting close to our 2,400 subscriber mark. And if we could manage to get that before or just after the Bromley game, it'd be amazing. Any other thoughts, leave them in the comment section after the video. And as always, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel.